Winning season has officially returned, and with the NCAA back in action, plenty of opportunities to win at MyBookie. Whether you're a seasoned bettor or a first-timer, MyBookie gets you the most for your money with a double deposit bonus up to $1,000. To claim your bonus, sign up and use promo code TRANSFER on your first deposit, and you'll instantly double your money with MyBookie. It's simple. $100 deposit puts $200 in your account. You can use your funds to bet on as many individual games, contests, or props as you want. Bet on team win totals, predict the national championship winner, or use the MyBookie prop builder to give yourself the edge you need to secure the bag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
What in the world just happened in week one? I'm not sure what else to say. I'm here, Dylan's here, Josh is here, Dan is here. We're going to recap just some of what happened in a wild week one. So glad college football is back. It starts with an incredible Thursday night with some comeback thrilling wins on last-second drives. You have what just happened on Sunday. We close it out there. And yes, you caught us. We're recording this before Clemson, Georgia Tech. So if Georgia Tech does the unthinkable, we're sorry. We'll record an emergency pod, though. It will be here immediately. But we're going to talk about literally everything except Georgia Tech, Clemson. I'm sorry, but that's how it be. And I'm just very happy to be here finally for a review of week one of college football with all you guys.
College football is back to full swing. It's super exciting that we didn't have a very dull week one, that it wasn't just a bunch of blowouts. There were some that were more disappointing than others, but from top to bottom, from Thursday through Sunday, it never stopped, and it was super, super exciting, and I'm excited to get into it.
College football is the best sport that there is. That's all I have to say.
Facts.
Yeah, it was incredible to see some of the stars of the sport, some of the premier programs, but also some really compelling, interesting things at some of the lower levels. Hopefully some of you got to catch some of the smaller programs like Liberty or Arizona, even a smaller Power 5, or Jackson State. Just really, really good storylines all across the board.
I mean, I was locked in on Delaware Navy from just about the jump. Johnny Buchanan had 23 tackles. He had 23 tackles, which only tied the program record at Delaware. They upset Navy on the road 14-7, just again showing the FCS is dominant.
If you were locked in on that game, you were doing better than the Navy players.
Oh, I was. I did not turn the ball over once, or rather the remote, I guess you could say. I was very secure, and Navy was not. That was a mess that they put out there. The product was extremely sloppy. It was just not very Navy-like at all, and Delaware just took advantage and pounced on that opportunity time and time again.
I think the biggest stat that I remember seeing from that game was Navy ran, of course, 63 times, something like that, for less than 3 yards a carry. The fact that Delaware was able to stop that the whole time was really impressive. And then you look at the other service academy, and you look at Air Force, and they ran it 60-something times for 9 yards a carry. That was just an insane performance by Air Force. But I expect that from them all season long.
Basically, what I learned is that the service academies, their weakness is chickens. So just don't schedule a chicken program, Air Force, and hopefully you'll be good, because Navy and Army got.
They're very good analytics there, Josh. The Chanticleers obviously, I wouldn't say cruised, but that game did feel like once Coastal got the stop that they needed and got that interception, that game just felt like it was in the bag. Both teams were kind of going down the field at will, it felt like. And when Coastal got that stop, it just felt like they weren't going to be beat. Huge fourth down conversion late in the game to, go and end up scoring a touchdown on that drive. So Coastal's dang good, but we already knew that.
Another good weekend for weather delay. Lightning strikes having another outstanding week one, forcing Memphis, Mississippi State into the late window, in the Hawaii time zone. You had Texas A&M and Sam Houston with a 4-hour halftime. So another good week for the weather delay.
Yeah, Mother Nature needs to chill.
Mother Nature's undefeated so far. That's why I'm happy that like the Oregon Georgia game that was in the Florida State LSU, those games were played in a dome. I guess they didn't really stop, the Raiders Chargers game last year from getting delayed, but I was just happy that those were more safe. The blue blood games were more safe, but Mother Nature's undefeated. She needs to take a bye week.
Still got that dog in them. Once again, that's back to back. Before we move on topics, what's one thing that really caught your eye this week?
I mean, I think I've talked about it before that I just love that it seems every year the week one matchups get better and better. Like not just the ranked matchups, the Oregon Georgia's, Notre Dame's, Ohio State's. Like the backyard brawl came back, Penn State, Purdue, hell, even Virginia Tech, ODU, which we're going to see until we're all old and wrinkly. NC State, East Carolina, Houston, UTSA. Like I can just go on and on. If you were only locked in on the ranked matchups, you sincerely missed out. The group of 5 games were fantastic. The FCS games were fantastic. It was just a stellar week. But one thing that caught my eye was Greg McElroy said something during last night's the Florida State LSU game that we talked about how throughout the offseason, fans were complaining about, college football is changing. It's going to be, it's never going to be the same and all that. And then as soon as that ball gets kicked off the tee, it's like everything's okay again. We're all excited. We're all locked in, from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed. It's just college football. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world outside of what's on the field. We're going to be locked in no matter what. And I don't think anything is going to change that.
Yeah, and I think off of that point to what Dylan's saying, it's just college football, if you go back and look, there was no forward pass. There was all these rule changes. There were no conference championship games in recent history. It's just stuff will change, but at the end of the day, college football is college football. And when the games are played, even if it's it's a conference game, but a conference game between Alabama and Ohio State, when a super conference happens, no one's really going to care that much. That it's not what it was when they were growing up. It's all different, and it's still going to be fun because college football just has that special quality to it that not many other sports have.
That's pretty.
All right, I guess if we're already doing the big picture, weeping and gnashing of our teeth about realignment and all that stuff, I guess I'll just say the playoff committee, you had a year and a half. You had all summer to figure out what you would do, and they wait until there's games, week one, marquee games, to drop the expansion news. I'm trying to get locked in on these games. I don't care about the 2026, tournament format. They waited all year and dropped it the way of, the day of games. And the Alliance, come on, you just waste anybody's time. Just getting mad at the SEC and throwing a temper tantrum and slamming the door, and just a whole big waste of time. I just want to see the playoff get clear of the ESPN monopoly, because they're already doing stories. Oh, how does week one affect the playoff picture? It's let us enjoy the sport for a little bit. Let us enjoy the teams that we know aren't going to make the playoff. That's fine. It's fine. We can be happy about some of those programs and enjoy what they did and not have to worry about how it affects the playoff picture just yet. So once you get the playoff spread across the full multimedia environment, I think it'd be better for the sport as a whole.
I think that's very well said as well. I like all those points that y'all bring up, but especially what Dylan said, all these close regional matchups that we saw in week one, we just need so much more of that in week one throughout each and every year, because those games were absolutely electric. I'm sure that we'll dive into them eventually, but again, if you're a fan of football, maybe you're not the biggest college football fan or everything, and you're just watching for what the AP has in their top 25, there's a whole nother sport that you're missing out on. You're not just missing out of stuff in this sport. It's a completely another sport, essentially. It's just so much better at times, is it not? Again, we'll dive into it, but the Houston UTSA game was just miles better than any other game in its time slot. And you could like I'll have to see the viewership on that and everything, but I'm sure there were millions and trillions more that were just watching Georgia walk all over Oregon. And this is just a massive mistake. You shouldn't be watching games just because a team has a 6 next to their name and the other one has a 13. That might not be the best game. And it proves time and time again that it's not. Sorry for that little rant. Let's actually talk about a matchup of, what we memed a mid-off, Florida State and LSU, that ended up being a masterpiece. It was a masterpiece.
I mean, Florida State LSU was so much better than Notre Dame Ohio State. And if you would have told me that like Friday night, I would have thought you were stupid. Like the Florida State LSU game was, and I don't know how to say this without it sounding crazy, but like it might have been the craziest finish I've ever seen to a game. And that's after seeing North Carolina App State. Like my jaw was on the floor for about the last 5 minutes of that entire game. I mean, first off, the one thing I want to say is I've been so impressed with the growth of Jordan Travis. Like Florida State quarterbacks have just this huge pressure to live up to with the storied history of that program. And, he got off to a slow start. Like a lot of Florida State fans were kind of done with him after his first couple of years. And he's just steadily improved. And he's really the leader of that offense in that program now. So, he deserves a lot of credit. He should not be overlooked anymore. But the play that really just was so fascinating to me was in the last 10 seconds of regulation, the Mason Taylor throw, that little crosser where he was headed toward the sideline. That was so fascinating because you could almost see his thought process play out in the last, couple of seconds of that run where he was like, we have no timeouts. Do I just get the first down? Do I, go out of bounds? Do I score? Like, I think there was a second where he was like, do I score here? Because he might have had the angle. And then that review was just blasphemous, trying to figure out what the hell was going on there.
They did not know what was happening. They might have just made up rules and just said, this is what we're going with.
As soon as Joe Test said the 4 worst words in the English language, Big 12 officiating crew, I knew it was chaos.
It only would have been worse if it was Pac-12, honestly. Like Pac-12 officiating crews might take the cake there, but yeah, as soon as they said that, I was like, oh boy, we're gonna be here for a while, sitting on our hands. And then finally, football started again. Jaden Daniels found Jerry Jenkins in the back of the end zone. It looked like, okay, we're going to overtime. But if you watch the North Carolina App State game, it's like, well, did they go for 2 here? Were they going to learn from App State's mistake and actually try to put together a play where the receiver's not backpedaling? There was a decision that had to be made, but Brian Kelly put up the one immediately. There was no question for him, and perhaps maybe there should have been, as we saw the blocked extra point. But LSU special teams, man, can we just pull one out? I mean, they were just the epitome of brutality. 2 muff punts by neighbors, a blocked extra point, blocked field goal. LSU's defense would get huge stops to get the ball back. The offense would do their job to come back from 14 down. And then special teams just couldn't make the fundamental plays when it mattered, just couldn't do what they were supposed to do. Special teams, nobody cares if you do your job right, but when you do it wrong, that's all they talk about. And that's what's happening with LSU right now, because everybody else did their job. I mean, the first half, the passing game was just non-existent. They came alive in the third and fourth quarter, but special teams, man, gosh, that was just brutal.
Can I bring up that 2-point conversion call and just ask each and every one of you, and please comment below as well, and make sure to subscribe too, because that would help us greatly. But would you guys have kicked the extra point or gone for 2? I know my take. I want to hear what you guys have.
2. I am no coward. I am no coward. I'm going for 2.
Did you say that as well, Dylan?
I mean, in retrospect, yeah. But
in the moment, if you were the head coach and you have that choice,
you play to win the game. I think, if you kick the extra point, chances are you could go to 5 overtimes, as we saw with Liberty, Southern Miss, saw with Houston, UTSA, Tulsa, Wyoming. Like, you just don't want to be playing forever. I would have gone for 2.
I think that Florida State D-line had been really kind of whipping you up front all game. Why would you want to extend it and go, put yourself back at the 25 and have more possessions? Just, you got them on their heels. You just drove, it was like 90 seconds. And you just drove, 99 yards in 70 seconds. And You have them on the heels. You have all the momentum, which, momentum isn't real, as we know from analytics, but you were cooking. Just ride that. You had the matchup, that advantage that Florida State had of their D-line. You can just take that away by going on one play. Daniels was making things, just get someone with a little rollout, get a little space created, and I don't know. That's what I would have done.
It was the first time all night that LSU's offense was consistently clicking and in sync. It was the first time all night. Florida State's defense is gassed. They're questioning things. They're thinking, OT, here we come. Well, obviously their special teams wasn't, but for Brian Kelly to immediately put the one up is just so astonishing and just was so obviously a bad move because, again, Dan, you pointed to it. Their offense line was getting cooked all night. Their offense had not done anything well all night. Boutte was nowhere to be seen. He's your best player. He and Daniels were clearly not in sync, not meshing at all. Florida State had the answers on defense all night. You're in what is truly a home game in the Superdome. You have all the momentum, all the fan support, all the energy in that building is on your side, and you opt to kick an extra point, even though prior you had a field goal blocked and your left side got absolutely exploded. I mean, there was nothing that ever lined up to where you should have kicked the extra point. You could even look, hey, maybe they trade points in the first two OTs. You're now having to go for two automatically in the garbage 2-point off when triple OT starts. So why not just go for two now and win the game then or lose it then instead of waiting till the fluky penalty shootout of triple OT plus?
Yeah, and my biggest thing too is that when the review was happening, you shouldn't just be drawing up your touchdown play. You should have your 2-point conversion play ready to go. A lot of coaches, good coaches, they have it at the beginning of drives. They say, all right, we're going for two. This is what we're calling. You get down there in that situation, you can say, all right, because it's basically back-to-back 2-point conversion plays because it's like the same area of the field. It's like, all right, we're going to do this play. And then when we go for two, we're going to do this play or whatever. You should have that, especially because the review took forever. Mm-hmm. You have plenty of time to do that. I don't know. I kind of get why he went for one. He's like, okay, we have momentum. Maybe we go. I don't know, Dan said like momentum's not real, but we have things on our side. We can go into overtime and see what happens. But it's like, you're not going to do anything because this defensive line is going to just destroy you. And you'll be kicking a field goal from the 40-yard line when you get backed up because of sacks and stuff. So I would have gone for two. And also it would have been just more exciting. And just, why not? That's me as an unbiased fan in that game, just like, hey, just go for two. Just make it awesome.
The rule of if it's cooler, so it counts. Momentum's not real in terms. I know I said that earlier in terms of like the hot hand fallacy. Like a guy's 5 in a row 3-pointers doesn't mean he's going to hit the 6, but they absolutely had that defense guessing and gassed, like you said, Liam. So to me, a big takeaway there was, man, I know Brian Kelly. It's an easy punching bag, especially the year he's had on the internet and the TikTok and all that stuff. But on the other hand, they were multiple different one play away breaks from winning that game. And I don't know, just a sport of inches. Today he's the laughing stock across the sport, and there's so many different ways that it could have broken the other way. But we'll see how they go building that program. It was interesting. Like LSU has 2 clear advantages over pretty much every team they're going to line up against, except maybe Alabama, of course, maybe Florida, and that's really, really incredible wide receiver room and a great D-line. And both of those 2 units just were not there. I know Mason Smith, it just came out, he actually tore his ACL, so that stunk. And Ali Gay was ejected in the second half. And Ojulari, he got banged up on the first drive. I feel like he was playing through that because he was on the field, but I feel like I didn't hear his name called really again much the rest of the game. So that's, bad luck injuries, but the wide receivers there wasn't a lot of focus. There wasn't a lot of chemistry yet with Daniels. So those 2 really clear advantages that they have in terms of talent that they're going to be relying on to try to win some of these coin flip games in the SEC West. They did not come through for them. And then my takeaway from the Florida State side is, we spent all offseason trying to figure out, who's 2022 Kenny Pickett? Is it is it Bo Nix? Is it Sean Clifford? Is it, maybe it's Jordan Travis. Maybe he's taking that clear step forward because he's looked really, really strong. He was in control yesterday. I was very impressed with Jordan Travis yesterday.
He threw some absolute dimes, man. Like some of the throws that he was making, I had to triple check that was the Jordan Travis that we've been watching for a few years now, because the ball placement on some of the throws he made in the end zone was absolutely remarkable. And he really didn't like Johnny Wilson dropped a pretty easy one that was right in his hands. That was a beautifully thrown ball to the right side of that end zone. Two defenders over there in the area. It's just a ball that's placed in the bucket, and Travis doesn't end up throwing a touchdown there because of drop. But I couldn't believe it was Jordan Travis. Like the maturity that he's shown, the growth in his game, it's truly remarkable. I can't wait to see what he does the rest of the year. Speaking to LSU's receiver room, it is just so obvious to me that Kayshon Boutte, one, needed to catch that touchdown on the opening drive of the game, but two, was not meshing with Daniels at all. There's a part of me that thinks he's kind of jealous that Daniels is getting the ball, like kind of getting the ball. Obviously he plays quarterback, but is doing everything with the ball. And he accounted for all but 39 yards of their total offense. I feel like Boutte was a bit just jealous that Daniels was doing everything and looking to, one read, if it ain't there, I'm running. Boutte had a bad drop in the fourth quarter, but he was wide open for like 5 seconds, possibly as a walk-in touchdown. Jaden never looked his way. Just kind of a weird thing there. Then obviously, why have we not said his name? Jared Verse. I talk about a heroic performance for the Albany transfer. 2.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, a blocked field goal, 9 or 10 pressures. He was one of the best players in college football this week, period.
I was waiting for you because I know that's been your guy. I mean, I don't think anybody was really out there scouting the Albany Great Danes as much as you, but yeah, Jared Verse is an absolute animal. I mean, he kind of reminded me of watching Jadeveon Clowney a little bit, just the speed and the power. I mean, that dude is just a force to be reckoned with, and that is an LSU offensive line that's got some new pieces, and he just took advantage. I mean, no matter where he was lined up, he was making his name heard, especially on that blocked field goal. My goodness.
Also, the Florida State call at the toss to even give LSU a chance.
Comparison.
Like, there is no world where you should be tossing that. The play should have been Jordan Travis, just simply snap the ball, take a few steps back and take a knee, and then kick your field goal. Let's walk out of there with a 10-point lead. Game over.
I was cackling because I was doing the math in my head. I'm like, no, they can just take the field goal here. And then I saw them because they had run that play earlier in the game, and it had been nice, but it had been like on their own 40-something. So like LSU still out there to respect the pass. It's like, oh, they're doing it again. LSU's selling up for the run. And then it looked rushed. Travis just pitched it and the running back's like, ah. And then LSU just dove it. And I'm like, okay, great. And now LSU's going to go 99 yards now, aren't they? And then they did. But it's like the play calling, like Florida State, for the most part, I loved like their calls, like the mixes of like different runs and like the passes were nice. I thought overall it was really nice. And then it's just at the end, it's like, no, just be smart. Don't overthink it, please. And then they ran that toss and then the defense just kind of collapsed. But, I also kind of get it because you're being aggressive and everything. Like you want to make a statement in week one and you're playing, I know, a down SEC team, but still an SEC team. And this is a big win for Mike Norvell in that program. But it's like, again, just be smart too. Just kneel it and trust your kicker.
And you didn't even have to kneel. You could have just QB snuck it and got in there if you really wanted the touchdown. Why on earth are you going for this low-risk play that has no upside? Like, obviously the upside's a touchdown, but it's significantly more risky than handing it off, than sneaking it, than direct snapping it to your running back. There's all these things that this was the riskiest play they could have done aside from throw it to a guy in quadruple coverage on a fade and get picked off and seen that taken 99 yards back to the house. It was an inexcusable call. I don't know if you guys have any other comments you have about this game. If you do, go ahead.
I'm just ready to watch Florida State for the rest of the year. I'm all in on the Seminoles. I was even after they beat Duquesne. Like I was locked in on that game, and now I'm really convinced that this team could make some noise in the ACC more than we thought.
I'm really sad that they have a bye week and don't play till next Friday against Louisville because I mean I love watching this defense, and obviously it's because they have Jared Verse, who is unstoppable, but the defense is just so nasty, and I can't wait to see what they do in the ACC. They're definitely on the fringe of the top 25 in my opinion. I think if that game didn't get so chaotic and in doubt at the end, I'd have ranked them in the top 25 as kind of my plan all along, but whatever. Let's move on to under the radar. What was your favorite under the radar game from week 1?
I'm going very under the radar, but Liam, I know you'll appreciate. I'm going with Bryant and FIU. That was a very entertaining game on Thursday night. ESPN Plus. I'm sure not everybody got to tune into that one, but Bryant looked fantastic early in the game. They had a 16-0 lead early in the second quarter. I thought it was going to be a blowout from there. I mean, Florida International couldn't get anything going, couldn't get the ball to Tyrese Chambers' hands, like their only goal on offense should be. And I thought they had some easy looks on fourth down. They couldn't convert. They did eventually get some methodic scoring drives rather in the fourth quarter. And they got the ball to Tyrese Chambers when it really mattered. And that's what excited me about this game is, they understood who they needed to get the ball to. And it's Tyrese Chambers. He's by far the best player on that team. But I think Grayson James is a guy that deserves a little bit of credit because Gunnar Holmberg came in, it seemed like he was going to be the starter as a transfer from Duke. Grayson James absolutely looked phenomenal. I mean, 4 touchdown passes. That second half, that offense looked completely different. And Tyrese Chambers, we've talked about a little bit how he deserved a lot more looks in that game, but if he got some of those looks on some of those routes that he was running, he was cooking them. They weren't even looking his way, unfortunately. But Grayson James to Tyrese Chambers, if that's the combo, this FIU team in offense could be really scary. So that was a really fun game to watch in overtime. A lot of the overtime games were just really fun. Obviously Houston, UTSA, but I wouldn't put that under the radar. I think everybody should have been watching that game instead of the primetime game we won't talk about in that time slot.
I'm gonna go to another ESPN Plus game. I'm gonna go to, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but Coastal Carolina and Army. That game I had that circled for a long time because I really love Coastal's offense, and Army's just always really good. And it was a fun game. Like Coastal, for the most part, like Liam said earlier, they had the game. Like you felt from the beginning, okay, Coastal's probably gonna win this, but Army stuck around. But Grayson McCall, dude's just a savant. He had a play where he held the fake hand. He held the handoff for a long time, or to the running back, pulled it, started running. Oh no, I'm screwed. Pitched it perfectly out to his other option. It was just wonderful to watch, and dude's just so fun. Coastal's amazing. Just the vibes are awesome. The mullets are amazing. The teal turf is one of my favorites in all of sports for anything, and it was just another fun game. Like I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but this Coastal offense is just such a joy to watch. You just watching college, even if you don't really know college football, you watch it like, oh, this is pretty entertaining. Just what they do, just all the misdirection and options, and the really great passing that McCall has. It's so much fun to watch them. But hey, shout out to Army too. Like they played really, really well, and they actually threw 2 touchdowns, which was also just shocking. I would have taken the under, whatever the over under was. I would have taken the under, but they threw 2 touchdowns. So overall, just a really fun game down there in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, that Army offense, when they have a defense they can exploit, they'll put up some points. They hung 30 and 40 on some FBS programs last year. I want to talk about Southern Miss and Liberty. I don't know. Did anybody else get to watch this game? This game was out of control. It was like, let me do my Stefan from SNL impression, because Southern Miss Liberty is New York's hottest nightclub. It has everything. It had quarterback changes. It had two different field length, game winning, game tying drives. You had multiple overtimes. You have Hugh Freeze. You have missed chip shot field goals. You had 50-yard bomb field goals. You had Frank Gore running the Wildcats. This game was out of control. Liberty, a lot of people kind of picked them as a sleeper Sunbelt team with that salty defense and getting away from that nightmare quarterback situation last year, maybe putting that behind them, giving the keys to Ty Keys, a recruit they're very high on. And he comes out. He's kind of okay in the first half, but he threw 2 picks, and then he got hurt and went into concussion protocol. They bring in their second stringer. He comes in first pass pick. So they get to the locker room, and Will Hall says, all right, no more quarterback. We're going back to that Wildcat that worked for us in November. Frank Gore Jr. is just running all over Liberty. They have a long drive right at the end of regulation, take a 24-17 lead, I believe it was, right at the end of the game. But on the other hand, Liberty has their own quarterback situation. Charlie Brewer got hurt. Their second guy was ineffective, so they go to third stringer, Kadon Salter. He's a project that they brought in, a former 4-star, transferred in from Tennessee. He comes in and he's looking like Michael Vick. He's explosive with scrambles. He's hitting bombs, and they drive down, under a minute and score a game-winning touchdown. Overtime was crazy. Southern Miss kicker misses a chip shot that would have won the game, but then he drills a 50-some yarder to send us to a third overtime. You had a terrible offensive pass interference call on Jason Brownlee. Just an incredibly chaotic game that Liberty was lucky to survive. Oh, man, that one was nuts.
Nuts it was, and I am sorry, but please let me explain why I chose Houston UTSA as under the radar. First off, this game I was looking forward to for months on end. I could not wait for this one. And when I saw the uniform matchup, right when CBS Sports Network started broadcasting this game, I knew we were in for a thriller. That clash of Houston's Reds versus UTSA's dark blues was so good and just looked so good on the TV from the Alamo Dome. But the reason why this is under the radar is because of the disrespect I saw it get all over the Twitter sphere. Everyone was tuned in to Oregon, Georgia. That was a mistake. I then saw people say, oh, what game do I put on? Because this one's a blowout. Oh, I'm going to put on North Dakota, Nebraska, because that's close. What on earth are you doing? This was the best game of the week. It was in the top 3, and then the FSU-LSU game happened, so maybe it doesn't stick as the top one, because you have the FSU one, and you have the UNC App State one. I think those could be, the top 3 from the week, but this game was insane. UTSA gets up 14. They're up 14 in the fourth quarter on their home turf, and things are clicking. They're looking all good and everything, and all of a sudden, Houston's offense figures things out. The fact that they were able to win this game despite not having many contributions from Tate Dell was super impressive. They need to find ways to get him the ball a whole lot more. UTSA did a really good job of preventing that. Just all in all, though, this game with all the talent that there was so good. Derek Parrish is playing with a broken hand or whatever. He's got a cast on his arm, goes in there, applies pressure to Frank Harris, creates an interception that helped spark that Houston comeback. Clayton Tune is doing ridiculous things in the overtime. There's unreal catches being made by whether it be Houston or UTSA dudes. Manjack made that one for Houston. I'm forgetting the UTSA tight end's name, but makes a ridiculous catch in coverage to set up the field goal that nobody would have thought was going to happen. Like UTSA drilled down the field in 20 seconds. Gets the field goal to tie it and send it to OT. And it's just such a shame that a game like this ends in a penalty shootout. There's no reason for that, man. This game was so good. Neither team deserved to lose. And it ended because of a 2-point conversion off. That rule stinks.
I mean, I think for the entertainment value, it's fun. The Illinois Penn State is a bad example of that overtime experience, but I was really surprised with Clayton Tune's athleticism, because when he started to take off, like you can kind of tell he was gearing up to jump a little bit on that 2-point conversion. I was really hoping we weren't going to see like that in that Nevada, New Mexico State game where the dude just jumped over like barely a piece of paper. Like I was really hoping he was actually going to get up and into the end zone. And yeah, he definitely surprised me. That was shocking. But the UTSA drive to get down there, like you said, in like a blip. That was one of the fastest. That was like an Aaron Rodgers drive. When they're down a score, and they need a touchdown. Like that was just insane. And Frank Harris deserves so much credit for keeping him in that game, because
That
that
kid
man
did not
might
deserve to lose.
that man might be even better than he was last year, and he was already really good last year.
Shout out to the transfer portal team on site, Andrew and Brian, covering that game, press credentials and the post game presser.
Andrew when Andrew goes to cover a game, you just know that he's going to see it an all-timer. It feels like that guy has seen some classics. But just speaking of Frank Harris, that touchdown throw that he had on 3rd and 6 or whatever to tie things up, he's a magician. Like Frank Harris looked like you said, Aaron Rodgers. He just looked like an absolute star. It was incredible to see the growth in his game. Being a guy that was watching him in 2020 when he ends up going down with injury and is hurt, and Gimpy, and just, there's quarterback discussions there. Who's going to start? To see his growth from that year and the pandemic to where he is now, it's two different people. Or I guess it's the same person, but it's two different quarterbacks completely. I'm so happy for him. I know, they got a tough game this week at Army, and then they have Texas. They have a gauntlet in non-conference, and that team is just an absolute joy to watch. And let's move quickly to teams that saw their stock rise and teams that saw their stock fall.
I think Arkansas stock rose with its win over Cincinnati. We know Cincinnati came in, they lost a lot of talent, but this Razorbacks team put together a complete performance, especially on offense. 223 passing yards, 224 on the ground. The defense pitched a shutout in the first half, kind of gave in a little bit in the second half. Cincinnati, put together some drives, but Arkansas's defense got to stop when it mattered. Their offense, put together drives when it really mattered. I don't think a lot of people came in thinking that Arkansas was going to win in the fashion that they did. I think, Cincinnati scored in the last couple minutes to make it a 7-point game rather than a 14-point game. Arkansas won convincingly in my mind, and I think they're going to be really, really dangerous in the SEC. And then who saw it fall? I don't know if I'd say it myself. I know a lot of people were saying Ohio State's stock fell a little bit against Notre Dame, only putting up 21 points. But I also think it could be said that Notre Dame's stock rose, especially defensively. The way that they, were holding Ohio State to, I think they had one score in their first 7 possessions or something like that. And then obviously CJ Stroud had a couple long drives to seal the game. But, the run game for Ohio State looked a lot more effective than the pass game. And I was not anticipating that. Obviously JSN was injured, didn't come back. But Emeka Egbuka is a guy, for me personally, as individually, I think his stock rose plenty. That's a guy that they can rely on if JSN's not out there, or if, by some miracle there's a corner that's got his number. I don't think that's really going to happen, but Egbuka is a guy that can be a wide receiver too for this team. And Marvin Harrison Jr. was doing a lot of good work too. The defense for Ohio State looked really good too. I think that deserves a lot of credit. It kind of looked like we were going to be in for a struggle because they gave up, I think it was like a 54-yard pass in the first play. I was like, this defense did not get better, but I think they gave up fewer than 200 yards after that. So defensively, big improvement from, just week one. I think it's going to be exciting to see some of these 5 stars like JT Tuimoloau get some play time, and the secondary does look a lot better. But I wouldn't sleep on Notre Dame after this loss. I know, it was 21-10. Their offense didn't do a whole lot, but I think this Notre Dame team, if the offense can be figured out, I think they deserve to be a top 10 ranking.
They better not sleep on Marshall next week, and that seems like a very Notre Dame thing to do.
Man, it was so hard to pick. I had a very easy faller, but my risers were so many. But I went to Boone, North Carolina, and I picked Drake May because last week, he looked awesome, but it was FAMU, and FAMU just had half their team missing, and it was just whack. But then seeing May this time in Boone in a really hostile environment up there in the mountains, looking really good. He looks like he's been playing for years. He looks so comfortable. He's just like back there calmly going through his reads. And granted, that's because App State couldn't really get to him. But again, he was going through his reads properly and he was doing it. And he's just a big athletic dude. He looks awesome. I love him so much already. Like I've been hearing about him for a while now, but he's been behind Sam Howell. So of course, like he didn't see the field, but now that he's seeing the field, it's like, okay, I see what the buzz is about. This dude looks amazing. And this North Carolina offense is just going to be awesome. Granted, because the defense is going to be awful. So they're going to have to put up at least 50 points a game. That's going to be so much fun to watch. May's got a bunch of great talent around him that he can throw to. And so that's going to be a really fun team to watch, at least offensively. Defensively, that was just kind of disgusting to watch. I'm like, oh man, just get one stop, please. At least look kind of competent. Not putting down what FAMU and what App State did, but just like at the same time, at least look like you know what you're doing, which they didn't. Just that North Carolina defense doesn't look like they have a clue what's going on. My Fowler, man, this one hurts because personally, for Louisville, I also had Malik Cunningham. I had him 10th in my Heisman preseason rankings just because I believe in him so much. But man, that Louisville team looked lost. They looked confused up there in the Dino Dome. The Syracuse just destroying them. And it's like, I knew Scott Satterfield's seat has been kind of warm already. And people kind of want him out, especially when he was openly flirting with the South Carolina job. But it's like, man, Satterfield, you have a great recruiting class coming in. I don't think that will be enough to save you if this is what keeps happening. And if you make my guy Cunningham look awful, it's just Louisville. I had hopes for you to at least be a plucky team that just annoys people with Cunningham and a fun offense. But it's like, that one just made me really, really sad to see Louisville. I mean, shout out to Syracuse and everything, but it's like, man, that they, at least for me personally, Louisville just way off the table. They're just, I'm just sad, guys.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be a fun shootout. It was just a dud. All right. My riser, it's not a player. It's not a team. It's not a coach. It's a concept. And Liam's going to be mad at me for this, but it's the concept of Stetson Bennett for Heisman. All right. So I'm not saying he's going to win the Heisman. I think most rational observers of college football understand what Stetson Bennett is. He's Jake Coker, right? He's Ken Dorsey, but the Heisman's not determined by the diehards, right? He is absolutely going to be in the Heisman discussion, and he's going to come to New York City. It's happening. He's about to do the SEC on easy mode. That offensive line is great. They have 3 really reliable wide receivers. They have a great running game as usual. And then they have 3 super weapons at tight end. It's maybe the best tight end room in history. He's going to post lines like that, 360 and 3 total touchdowns every single week with that defense. They just won the national championship. He's a walk-on. That narrative, they have, former walk-on. They're going to go 12-1, 13-0 in the SEC, and December's going to roll around, and all these people are going to start paying attention that vote on the Heisman for the first time in 2 weeks that, wrote at the New York Times, 30 years ago. And they're going to see this story and this narrative, and they're going to vote for Stetson Bennett. It's not going to be enough for him to win it, but he's coming to New York. It's happening. I fully believe. The story of that game was how quickly the Oregon defense, the Georgia defense reloaded, that Kirby Smart is answering that question about, because Saban's superpower is overcoming hangovers, right? And just consistently, not just reloading the roster, but keeping them hungry. And it looks like Kirby is doing that again, that this roster is hungry again. Malachi Starks was incredible, true freshman, was maybe the best player on the field. He was amazing. Jalen Carter was great. Christopher Smith, but nope, all ESPN headlines, Stetson Bennett. So Stetson Bennett, Heisman finalist. It's happening.
I hate how true that this is. Like, yeah, that's a lock.
I heard someone say a funny line where it's like, man, Stetson Bennett gets to lateral for 400 yards a game. This is ridiculous. But yeah, Dan's right. Like Stetson Bennett, I mean,
he's going to play it on. He's doing the SEC on easy mode. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, like, I love the scrappy, scrambling quarterback. So like, I've hated on Stetson Bennett. I'm with it. Stetson for Heisman. Let's go.
It's like, yeah. Again, it is a great story, and like there isn't anything yet that he's a bad guy. Certainly not to the extent of Jake Fromm or something with their stories out there, the racist text messages and crap like that. There's nothing against Stetson Bennett. He's not a pro prospect, but it's just what that conventional media is going to rally around. My follower is A little more off the beaten path. We're going to the middle of the Mountain West standings. That's San Jose State. They won the Mountain West in 2020. You know, COVID year, weird year, but Nick Starkel and that team, they had a really, really great year. They took a big step back last year, but you know, there were some bad luck elements there. I think some people thought they might be a squad that could kind of rebound to where they had been. They got kind of pushed around by FCS Portland State. That's not North Dakota State. That's not Incarnate Word. That's not, you know, James Madison. That's Portland State. That's a middling FCS program. They outgained San Jose State by about 100 yards. If they hadn't turned the ball over 3 times, they could have won this game. Cordero, San Jose State's quarterback, only went 15 for 30, 50% for pass attempts. It's just not that impressive. That 2020 season it's diminishing in the rearview mirror.
It's much like Indiana's 2020 season.
Yeah,
like, it's evident.
Disappearing fast in the rearview mirror. Yeah.
They like I watched that entire second half and I was blown away at the ineptitude that San Jose State had when they got the ball on Portland State side of the field. They were allergic to the end zone. They were consistently inside the 30 and didn't know how to get the ball in. And you're doing that against a team that won like 5 games last year.
That's tough.
It's ugly. You know, look, my riser. Also, first off, Stetson Bennett, I really like him as a person. Everything. If he wins the Heisman, I mean, look, the nickname.
I'm not saying he's going to win. I'm not saying he's going to win.
The nickname, the Mailman, is electric. I love that nickname. Love the USPS hat that he was wearing when he was, you know, at quarterback camps during his recruitment and everything. But you know, I'll move on to my risers. I'm going to give a shout out first to Oregon State because I thought they looked phenomenal in every aspect of the game against a really good Boise State team. They tore those guys apart in the trenches, which that's the Beavers' identity and everything. But Boise State's got a really good front 7. They handled things really well. But Chance Nolan and their passing game was firing on all cylinders too, aside from when he tested J.L. Skinner one time. But the Beavers look pretty dang good. I gotta say, I'm really impressed with that. Can't wait to see that game versus Fresno State this week. And then my actual riser sticking in the Pac-12, it's Arizona. How many people expected Arizona to go into San Diego State, first game at Snapdragon Stadium, come out with a win like that? I know Dylan did. I know I did. I don't know how many others did. Arizona looked phenomenal. Another riser, Jaden DeLora. How good was he? This is against a San Diego State defense that we talk about each and every year. Oh, they're so good defensively. They're so good in pass coverage, blah, 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 blah. This was no trouble for Jaden DeLora. Jacob Cowing's not a riser because that guy's already been rising for months on end. You know, the coveted transfer and everything. We all loved him at UTEP. Kid is unreal. And these other receivers that they've got, Arizona, Jed Fish is cooking something special. I would not be one bit surprised if they beat Mississippi State this week. The North Dakota State game, I still want to give to the Bison, but Arizona, Mississippi State next week is going to be so good. It's going to be so good. I'm really excited to see what Fish is cooking up at Arizona. And then my faller, first off, I kind of already talked about it. It's LSU. That was like one of the worst displays that you could have had in Brian Kelly's debut for so many different reasons. I'll comment on one thing as opposed to others. I feel terrible for Malik Neighbors. He's getting so much hate, and it's just not deserved. He's a human at the end of the day. What Brian Kelly said in the postgame was one of the most disgusting things that, you know, we're going to read all year from a coach. Throwing him under the bus like that with just a shady, grimy, gross, brutal comment like that. You know, if I'm a recruit and I see that, I don't want to go play for you. If you're going to throw me under the bus like that in a nanosecond, I don't want to play for you. So I thought that was pretty garbage. But the real faller for me is Boston College. Rutgers had a plethora of guys out, including starting quarterback Noah Vedral. Boston College got a lead in that game. Zay Flowers is dominating. Boston College loses at home to Rutgers. That can't happen. You were 10-point favorites. Jeff Hafley, I don't know what's happened to you, my dude. It does not, like, a lot of UCLA fans have wanted you as head coach for over a year. I have told them each and every time, please do not put us through that. I don't want you to be the head coach at UCLA. I just don't see it. You had a 4th and 25. I know it's 4th and 25, but there's a minute 20 left in the game. you're punting and you're losing, and you get the ball back with like 15 seconds left. Was it worth it? No. You have to go out there and try and convert the 4th and 25. You don't. You wave the white flag. You lose at home to Rutgers to open your season. Your offense is straight out of 1915. It's garbage. It's bad. It's ugly. Zay Flowers deserves better. I hate watching Boston College's offense. I truly do. This is not the team that could have been something special last year with a healthy Philly Yerk. It's just not the same team at all. We'll move on to the most memorable moment in week 1. We should probably just want a little quicker.
Well, yeah. Well, for me, I think it's that Florida State LSU game most memorable. I mean, I'm going to remember that game forever. I don't think I could have handled that game if I was a fan of either one of those teams. But then also, like, Florida to me proved they are a cannot miss football team, especially with Anthony Richardson. That the backfield of Montreal Johnson and Trevor Etienne is going to be really fun. Defensively, they're going to be, a tough defense to move the ball on. I'm going to be locked in on Florida, even though we were all sleeping on them. Old Takes Exposed got us, in case you missed that. We all picked Utah, and they caught us red-handed. So Florida, I'm locked in on.
Garbage Twitter account. How dare people have opinions about sports and maybe be wrong on them sometimes. Them and Message Board Geniuses, get out of here. Both accounts are garbage. I'll say it.
I take full accountability for us losing or getting on Old Takes, Freezy Cold Takes. I messed that up. I had Florida the entire offseason weighing that game. I inserted them into the sheet. Then I woke up the next morning and changed to Utah because I thought, I got too many underdogs. All my underdogs lost anyway, and the one that I should have had won. It's my fault.
I'm also going to call Adam. Adam, come on, man. Just come on, help us out, man. But anyways, my memorable moment was just the kickoff for Ohio State Notre Dame. Like, of course, the game itself wasn't really that entertaining, but just like pregame, crowds bumping, just these classic teams, classic uniforms. It's a night game. You got the top ESPN team on the call. It's on ABC. I also a little bit biased because like usually I'm watching multiple games at a time, but I had this one on my TV because like my internet was being weird. So like that was the only game I had on at that point. But just like seeing it on the screen, just like, all right, college football is back. Let's go. And then like it quickly devolved into like two defenses just like beating the snot out of each other, out of the offenses. But that pregame feeling was just like, all right, yeah, college football is back. Let's go.
For me, memorable moment, recording this here Monday afternoon. This feels like a lifetime ago, but that backyard brawl on Thursday night was special. And that game, the atmosphere, the fans, the ESPN was hyping up a split crowd, but it really didn't feel like it was that split to me. And in a pro stadium like that was electric. That was a great environment. You had two quarterbacks that were making big plays in the faces of really, really tough D lines. Clancy for Pitt was great. Dante Stills, West Virginia, was just wreaking havoc all game. And those quarterbacks were just making plays. You had explosive plays. And then that pick six to win it with the student section going nuts. What a moment that was. What a highlight. It was really great to see one of the sport's best rivalries return. 105 meetings, I think, overall, 106 meetings overall. And to see it there in a highlight slot, marquee time for the sport, that was awesome.
Play that game every year in week 1 on a Thursday night.
Absolutely. Get some of those rivalries. Get like Louisville, Kentucky. Get that into week 1 or 2. Get it away. You're paying attention to the Iron Bowl and, all those kind of games. Then get that out of there. You're playing Michigan, Ohio State. Get games like that into those marquee slots early in the season.
Get a lot more of those non-conference rivalries. Give them the stage early, and it's going to help grow the sport a little bit. I will say
my very first game was Missouri, Illinois. I was a freshman. Brad Smith's breakout, 2002, the old man of the transfer portal here. That was great. That has been played in about 10 years too.
That one needs to be brought back too. And I'll just say on that backyard brawl, Neil Brown, man. We haven't spoken about it, but you're putting that on 4th and if you 4th and maybe half of an inch, a quarter of an inch, They could have the center could have had the ball ready to be snapped. It would have been a first down. Like, it was that close, and you punted it in a rivalry game on the road where you're an underdog to a top 25 team. Why are you being a coward, dude? Why? You've been able to run all over them all night. CJ Donaldson was one of the best stories in the sport this week. That's a 3-star true freshman tight end that had about 7 carries for 120. You're not giving him the ball? Heck, don't even give him the ball. Let JT Daniels keep it on a read option. Who's going to expect that? I was waiting for that all night. I was saying to my brother, I was saying to my friends, look, Josh Rosen did against Arizona on College Game Day a few years ago. Kid never runs, all of a sudden keeps a read option, houses it for like 6 yards. You're telling me JT Daniels can't do that for a yard? That was kind of... Oh, yes, he can.
He would
Post
fall
ACL,
apart.
Post ACL,
No,
he
His
can.
all he
body,
needs-
his
No,
arms
he
over
would've
here,
got
his
it.
legs
No.
over there. His
I
was
going to
ribs
end up
over
like
here.
the guy from SpongeBob. He'd have got it. He'd have got it, I promise. But there were so many memorable things. The backyard brawl was insane. Old Dominion fans storming the field. That scene was amazing. Seeing Hudson, that dog, was amazing. Seeing the Virginia Tech coaches get stuck in an elevator at halftime was amazing. That Old Dominion Virginia Tech game that we'll get to see 9 more times in the next 9 years. Thank goodness, because this like low-key rivalry is super fun, and it's been proven that game just felt like it kind of so perfectly encapsulated college football. Old Dominion wasn't good at all offensively in that game until they connected with Ollie Jennings to set up the game-winning touchdown. The Virginia Tech bad snap on the field goal to end the first half. Then the coach is getting stuck in the locker room. Hudson was honestly the star of the game. The beautiful Hudson blue uniforms ODU had. It was just such a... I don't know what Blumrick was doing, clocking some poor student rushing the field after the game. That was a garbage move. Thanks for apologizing, though, but the kid's broken jaw. I'm not saying he actually has a broken jaw. I have no clue, but potentially. Is it going to care about the apology? Like, what was that about? I don't know. That game just kind of so perfectly encapsulated college football. Sorry for kind of rambling on there. Let's go to one team that you proved to be can't miss. You got to watch these guys week.
I think TCU, obviously, they played Colorado. Colorado is in the pit of college football right now, but TCU's speed is insane. Like, all over that offense and defense, their speed is next level. And Sam Jackson is a secret weapon that I'm so excited to watch, especially if Morris isn't healthy.
Yeah, they looked great, and they didn't even really need to get Quentin Johnson involved, and that's their stud. They won that game going away, and he had like 30 yards.
That's a good pick. My team, I mean, I mentioned them earlier and I talked about them. I've been talking about them kind of on a podcast. Coastal Carolina, again, just they're so much fun to watch. And like, just me personally, also just being a football nerd, that offense is so cool. It's just so cool. But again, like I said, even if you don't really watch them, just their vibe they have and their colors are cool and just the mullets and everything. Just you got to watch Coastal Carolina because they're entertaining even off the field.
The triple option concept offense is mesmerizing.
I can't believe nobody said Florida. They're not my pick. I'm just reacting to the fact that we haven't said them.
I already kind of did.
Them. We disrespected them in the picks. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch. But for me, a team that I'm really excited to watch, and that's Maryland. We knew it was going to be a fun team to watch because of that passing offense and Talia Tagovailoa. That wide receiver room is incredible. Rakim Jarrett, Dante Demas, Jacob Copeland. They lost a bunch of guys on defensive transfer portal. These Turtles are going to be in track meets. You throw in the fact that they showed, again, a lot of issues with discipline. They just set themselves up for long, 2nd and 20 type situations. They let teams convert third downs because of chaotic mistakes. They just are always in crazy, crazy chaotic games. Then they have now a freshman running back stud, Ramon Hemby. He was a guy against Buffalo. He was a beast. So I'm going to watch a lot of their games, especially in 2 weeks when they play SMU. That is going to be an awesome, awesome game.
Definitely will be. Man, like I'll say Florida for this too, in due part because I'm such a big believer in Billy Napier, and I hated seeing all the slander that guy got all offseason. He's a dang good ball coach. We knew that from ULL. Got so disrespected all offseason. Florida fans should cherish this coach. I think he could end up being real good. I gotta go with UTSA though. I know I already kind of talked about them, but their offense, man, was firing on all cylinders. Even though they didn't light up the scoreboard, Frank Harris looked amazing. Zachary Franklin didn't even play his best game. All the receivers stepped up, like the Corian Clark, Josh Cephas. They looked good. Their offensive line looked really good handling Sack Avenue. Like that's another one of those things is their offensive line balled out against Sack Avenue. Running backs, Brendan Brady did a lot more than expected. I know a lot of people expect Traylon Smith to be a guy. Both of them played pretty well. The defense is disgusting too. That for me is going to be, once again, meat, man. They have been so fun to watch, whether they're winning or losing, whether it's 2020 or 2021. I love watching UTSA. Please be glued to your TV to watch the Roadrunners. Let's move on to our final topic. Talk up one player that absolutely balled out this week.
Jacob Cowing. He and Jaden Delore, an absolute animal duo. Like that's going to be so much fun to watch. I love this Arizona team. I picked them to be 6-6 and a bowl team this year. Don't sleep on that, man. This Arizona offense is going to be a lot of fun.
There were questions about who would replace Bailey Zappi at Western Kentucky, and I mean, there was a guy that I was kind of paying attention to because I kind of been weirdly like following him. Austin Reed transferred from North Florida. Dude is a winner, won a national championship down there at Division II, and he came in and he's fun. He can run a little bit, got a pretty decent arm, and I'm not saying he looks like Bailey Zappi, but it's kind of like Bailey Zappi, a penniless man's Bailey Zappi, and I mean that in the most positive way. He's just fun to watch. And like Western Kentucky, like if you were afraid that offense was going to fall off, don't fear it, man. Austin Reed's got you. He looked good against Hawaii, looked good against Austin Peay. And I know not the best opponents to go against, but it's just fun. It's going to be fun out there with the Hilltoppers and Austin Reed.
My guy, what a treat to see Michael Penix out there going from the Big Ten defenses to the Pac-12. No offense, Dylan, but it's got to feel like swinging a baseball bat after you take the donut off, because he, reunited with Kalen DeBoer. He was just he was balling out on Saturday night, and he was in control. He was moving the pocket. He was moving effectively. He was hitting deep shots, hitting guys in stride. Looked accurate. Now, yes, granted, it was against Kent State, and Kent State has a accommodating defense. If you want to do something, they'll probably let you do it. But man, he looked in control. I'm excited to watch him. He's a really great dual threat talent, and put it all together. Maybe in his last college year with a coach he's familiar with, and a good program. Washington is a proud program. So Michael Penix looked great week 1.
I was really impressed with them too. Again, it was Kent State, and they've just notoriously had terrible defense. It doesn't matter though for this guy coming off the injuries. What he's endured. It was very promising to see him ball out like that. Let me first off give a shout out to Iowa punter Torrey Taylor. I mean, dominated South Coast. He was the MVP in that game. Had like 3 punts down inside the 2. It felt like. I watched every second of that game. I don't regret it. It was amazing. I already talked up Jared first. I've talked up other guys, so I'll kind of go someone else. Garrett Williams. He's top 5 corner in the country. What he did against Louisville was super impressive. 9 tackles and flashed his absurd athleticism on that, interception that he had to take away a for sure touchdown. I know a lot of people weren't going to expect that. And then just quick shout out Micah Abraham. Let's see what he could do against Notre Dame this week. He had a very good interception in their week 1 win for Marshall. Insane break. Closing speed was insane. Love Micah Abraham. And yeah, that'll do it for us. I know it's kind of a lengthy review, but we had to review almost everything, and we didn't even get to review anything. So sorry if we didn't talk about your team or favorite players or whatever, but talked about a lot. It's got to count for something, right? We really appreciate you watching this. Please make sure to like and subscribe. It would help us tremendously. And we'll catch you on the next one. Our week 2 preview. It's out very soon. So be on the lookout for that.